All right, Coach, 2022 season starting next week. Just some general thoughts on SIUE and what you were expecting this year.
I think we're all pretty excited to get the season started. We're a team that returns quite a bit for us offensively. Most of our lineup, outside of maybe one or two spots, returns from last year, which was an offense that was finished the year pretty high across the league in many of the important categories as far as slugging percentage and home runs and doubles. So, that's something that we look forward in strength. We lost some very veteran guys out of the bullpen from last year's team that we're trying to replace and plug. But, having Colin Baumgartner back for this year as things move along, hopefully, step by step for him in his rehab process. But no, we're excited to get started and a little bit of the new look to the OVC a little bit this year, and get ready to get things rolling.
Thanks, Coach. Before I open up to others, I wanted to ask you about Con. So can you talk about, obviously he's shown a lot of potential and had some good years. The pandemic kind of cuts on the short, the injuries. So what's his ceiling then this year? What do you expect when he's fully healthy to get out of him?
Yeah, it's hard to tell and put numbers on it, and it's really an interesting story, Kyle. As you mentioned it, the COVID year was his big year as a junior, and that gets cut short. And then the draft was odd that year with 5 rounds, and he comes back, and then the devastation of last January when the injury occurred for him, for our team, because everyone was so excited for him last year. But what has really been cool to see and great to see is the maturation process of him handling that injury and how he's handled his rehab over this, the last 12 months. His perspective on it and what he's, taking into this season has really been impressive. And I think it shows to a lot of guys. His expectations are higher than what we may have of him. But if things come back for him the way he hopes and the way he has looked in this preseason part, we can look to see a really good year out of him.
Question down here in the chat, just generally too, I want to know your outlook in the season, but some of the players you're looking at to really make contributions for the Cougars.
Yeah, no, as I mentioned before, I think we're very optimistic about this group. We're finally in a position where we have some veteran guys, both on the offensive side and on the mound, that have been through it. I think if you asked our guys last year, they were very disappointed in the way we finished the season. We were in a really good spot with about a month to go, and just didn't finish the way we wanted. I think if there was a word that we have kind of put out there for us is just consistency. Depending upon what weekend you saw us play, you were, hey, that's one of the better teams in the league right there, or didn't quite get it done, and we feel we have had a great fall season, great preseason here this winter with our guys. Some of our leaders that we're looking for on the offensive end starts right at the top. Brett Johnson, leadoff guy, can really, provide havoc on the base paths, has an opportunity to hit with some power and some doubles. We also, Brady Bunton is also a, preseason all OVC selection DH guy that can really drive the baseball. He was our biggest run producer last year, both on the home run front and RBIs. He'll hit in the middle of the lineup. We're going to move Connor Kiefer from second base over to third base to replace the loss of Raul Alguezabal. He's got to provide some stuff for offensively. A freshman from last year, Avery Owusu-Asidu, that's a name to keep an eye on, has really progressed. I think plate discipline from him from a year ago is something that was his thing that he worked on over the summer and in through the fall, has really allowed him to make a big jump forward. We've got several guys offensively, like I said, that have returned that'll play major roles for us. On the mound, Noah Matheny was, as a freshman last year, very mature, kind of thrown into the role of pitching every Friday night for us. He's a guy. Brant Glidewell is another guy we're looking for a big year out of on the mound. And a lot of our bullpen arms this year, Jacob Bockenstedt right now at the beginning of the year is looking maybe to make a transition from starter last year to sitting in the bullpen. But a lot of our bullpen are a bunch of new guys, whether it's Spencer Smith, Kyle Dixon, Alex Shear. Those are some names of guys that should really add some depth with our returners of Quinn Waterhouse and Cade Carnes.
Van Stokes from the Gov Sports Network has a question. Go ahead, Van. You're on mute, Van. There you go.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. As Joe knows, I've watched this team now for a number of years, and every year I get more and more respect for SIUE. As you look back from the time you began to where you are now, what do you feel best about the program that you've been working with at SIUE?
Well, first off, Van, I really appreciate you saying that and taking notice. I think the biggest thing is just trying to develop a culture of expectation of winning, and that we're getting to that point with our guys. As I mentioned before, when they looked at last year, some on paper may say that was hey, you're moving in the right direction. We looked at that as, wow, we had an opportunity and just didn't get it done. And there's a lot of guys that are very hungry this year to know what we're capable of, knowing it's definitely a difficult road for sure, but they're excited and ready for the challenge.
Thank you, Coach.
We're going to let Joe ask a question then. Nobody knows you better than he does. So go ahead, Joe.
Coach, one of the things that stand out, you mentioned some guys in your offense in Brady and Brett, Avery, even, and Ole Arnson, not just what those guys provide numbers wise, but those guys are all 40 plus games last year for you. So they're guys that on a regular basis, you're going to pencil those guys into the lineup most games. What does that do for you, having a core group that you're going to count on most every game?
Yeah, that they're tested, and that they've been through it. And I mentioned there's so many, guys that are returning. You mentioned Ole. We got Richie Well, who started over 40 games for us last year in a utility role. And really what that does, Joe, is just right out the gate, there's not that nervous energy and whatnot for guys when they're starting out those first part of the year, that hopefully it will lead us to get settled in pretty early on and hopefully for some success early. But I expect, just that, if you want to call it veteran leadership, and they've shown that throughout the fall, those guys that have been in the fire and have been through it.
Coach Flynn, on this question, and a little bit on your schedule, obviously, you all have a good surface where you can play at home maybe quicker than some of the northern teams can, but you got some really good tests in those non-conference weekends early on.
Yeah, who schedules like that, But yeah, Southeast Louisiana and Mercer, the first 2 weekends, those are 2 teams coming off great 2021 seasons. And it's definitely going to be a challenge for us. One of the things I like to do and why we kind of go is just, it creates good environments for our guys to play in and battle test them, to when you got to play a tough road series, whether it's at Austin P or at SEMO or whatnot throughout the year. You got to be ready. You got to be ready and handle that. But it will be fun. But we do have a couple home weekends there in early March. We got Western Michigan and Oakland University. Not that it's great to have more non-conference weekends with the league, but it does allow for us to get some more home contests in before OVC play starts. But it should be a fun non-conference start to the year before we get into OVC play. And you open up OVC play with the preseason favorite at SEMO, and that's definitely a weekend that we always look forward to anyway, because we're close. We recruit against them a lot, and Andy's done such a tremendous job there, and obviously their success last year. But it'll be a fun weekend to start things off.
Coach, thanks for your time this morning, and best of luck this upcoming season.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.